Hey everybody, it's Maya, and we are now live in our Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. And our class today is the truth about angels. And I just realized I forgot to set something up. So hang on a second, and this will just give everybody a chance to get on here while I mess with my thing. So hang on, you guys. We've got 4 people live already. That's cool. All right. You know, the nice thing about Facebook Live is that it is casual and it's totally fine. And we're just gonna go with the flow. Okay. Now I'm back. Alrighty, here we are. Set up my notes. As usual, go ahead and say hi and where you are joining from. I have a lot of notes today. So I'm here in sunny Tucson, Arizona. It is blue, clear skies today. It's still a little bit, quote, chilly. I don't know the temperature, but like you don't have to wear a coat outside, but it's still like Arizonans, we say that that's cold because it's like 65 or something today. But soon enough, it will be 114 degrees like it was last April. So enough with the chit chat. I'm going to go ahead and say hi to you guys, and then we're going to jump right into today's topic. Which is all about angels, or the truth about angels. So who do we have here? Hang on, let me go back. We have Nora from Arkansas. Hi, Nora. Ming from Massachusetts. Jane says hello from the western slope of Colorado. That sounds amazing. So I know we have more people joining. I will shout out to you guys as we go. And so welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Always at the beginning, I just take a minute to share some announcements, and then we get into our content. So I do want to also give a shout out to those of you who are watching the replay either on Facebook or on my YouTube channel. And if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, you totally need to do that, because that is where I store all my there's tons and tons of free videos on there. So if you're watching on Facebook and you haven't heard about the YouTube channel, you need to go, after we're done here, go over to youtube.com, type in Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and you will find the channel with like huge amounts of free videos all about psychic protection, spiritual warfare, developing your spiritual gifts, and all sorts of other stuff. And you know, this is just one of those classes today where I have to do weird stuff, because now I need to clean off my camera. So hang on a second. Let's see. I already did it, but it's just on my end. There, that's better. On my end, like I literally cleaned it off right before I started, and then as I was talking and looking at myself, I was like, I look really blurry. We need to try that again. So let's, so a shout out to those of you on YouTube. I just want to acknowledge that this is a Facebook Live, so there's a little more bantering than in, a standard, like pre-recorded, polished video, which I don't do those, as you guys know. I want to just have a conversation with you and get to know you. So that's what we are doing here. We've got a lot more people saying hi. So let's go back. Joe says hello from Mazatlan, Mexico. Hello down there. Hi. Because I'm up here in Arizona. Jessica from Scottsdale, Arizona. Hello. Welcome. And Joe says, God, I miss Colorado. Just seeing Western Slope makes me miss it more. And Nick, I miss Colorado too. And Jane says, Maya, your image is clear on my end. Well, okay, it's clearer now. That's good. Nick says, hi from Arkansas. Very cool. Welcome to our crowd. I actually recognize all of you, so thank you for showing up and coming back. And we have Jeannie here, also from Piper, Kansas. Okay, so this is one of these classes where I'm going to be going through a lot, and if you are a note taker, go ahead and grab your pen and paper. And as you're doing that, I'll give you a second. If you didn't have it already, go grab it and come back. And while everyone's grabbing their pen and paper, I'm going to give another quick announcement, and that is, as we're going through all of this content, if you feel like you want more support and you'd like to work with me more deeply, then I invite you to visit my website, www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And there are a lot of different options on there. There's everything from free to like premium offerings. So there's something for everybody on there, and you can check it out. Okay, looking at the notes here. So a couple weeks ago, I posted in our group that I was going to be doing this Facebook Live, and I asked for you all to submit questions. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about today is focusing on those questions. And I'm also going to cover some basic information about angels. And I'm also going to dive a little bit into I'm trying to think of what adjective I want to use, because there's a certain word that now just has such horrible connotations, I'm not even going to use it anymore. But I'll just talk around it. So when we question something, when we're really like seeking deeper truths, when we start to question whether the standard narrative is actually the truth, there's a word that's used for that, but it has such a bad name now. If I use it, people get really upset, man. So I'm not going to use it. So, but we are going to touch a little bit on some things about angels that I do question. And if you figure out the word, don't, anyway, whatever. So I am going to talk about some standard angel stuff, but I'm also going to get a little bit into some things that some people question. I thought a lot about this class, and I spent a while writing out my notes, and I thought about, okay, how deep down the rabbit hole do I want to go with this? Because this could be like a whole humongous rabbit hole of like all of the questioning things. And so I want to give you a heads up for those of you who are the deep questioners that I'm definitely going to be touching on some things, but I'm not going to dive super deep down the rabbit hole because that's really beyond the scope of this group. This group is more for people who are, wanting to know how to survive spiritual warfare, how to protect your energy, how to be a stronger empath. And of course we want to know the truth, but we're kind of, go this deep instead of that deep. I'll definitely explain more as we go and you'll know what I'm talking about. But really, ultimately, I know you guys are here for answers. Like, that's why you joined this group, right? Or that's why you're watching this video. But I want to let you know, I'm going to give you a combination of what's standard knowledge out there, and then also where I'm at with what I think. But then it's going to be up to you to decide. Like, I'm not going to tell you this is what the ultimate truth is, because when we get into the topic of angels, then we get into like, exactly where do they come from? Do they come from God? Then that takes us down the rabbit hole of like, well, is God real? And is this the true God? And like that whole, I'm going to say the word conspiracy rabbit hole. Okay. Like that whole, like, is it just like we can go down a whole other tangent with that? And that's just too many different directions. And I'm not even going to like get into the whole like what is our reality actually like, and where did we come from, all of that. That's I'm still on a seeking path of that, but I will definitely tell you the answers that I have come to so far. Okay, all right, so Joe says, we, the deep questioners. Yes, that is so true. Yeah. Hi, Dina. Good to see you over there in Kansas. So first I'm going to start off with like your basic standard information. This is information that you could literally do a Google search and find like many pages of results that are going to give you similar information to this. So I'll just go through this stuff briefly, and you'll probably recognize some of it as standard knowledge, and you might even recognize some of it from your upbringing, depending on what your religious upbringing may have been. Because the idea of angels is, the information that I'm going to share with you comes from Christian and Judaic information. I actually have not deeply studied a lot of other religions. I'm very friendly toward all religions, but I just want to let you know I'm not trying to leave any paths out. Okay, I'm not trying to do that, but I'm going to speak of what I know. So this is pretty standard knowledge here in the West. As far as the Christian and Judaic, from the Old Testament, for example, there's a lot of beliefs that have been formed based on the teachings of that particular religious text, and of course acknowledging there are many religious texts. So where do angels come from? Most people believe that angels were created by God, and that angels were created by God before God created human beings. Now, being super clear here, right now I'm talking about like the standard information, but not necessarily everything that I believe, right? So kind of putting it in different boxes. So that's the standard belief. And another standard belief is that angels do not have free will, that they follow God's will only. But even as I'm speaking that, I'm like, well, if that's true, how come there's fallen angels? Because I am ever the questioner, and I love that about myself, and I think that the divine loves that about me too. I don't think that's a bad thing, in my opinion. I do believe the standard idea that angels, let me clarify, many angels are unconditionally loving. Especially the angels that I have encountered, the ones that I have encountered that are true angels. So we're going to go down that rabbit hole later about what's true and what's not true. But the true angels that I've encountered have been very benevolent and loving, and not just loving, but unconditionally loving, like very supportive and here to assist us. Speaking of assistance, the standard belief is that angels are here to, lost my train of thought, to assist with humans, not only humans, but with the earth and with the universe. So not just with humans, but the broader perspective as well. Okay. All righty. I do have to go with my notes because there's a lot to cover. Now, here's a little tidbit that is pretty standard belief, and I'm very aligned with this. And it's that angels are spiritual beings. My direct experience has been that they present themselves in different ways. So I have clairvoyantly seen them as pure energy, and they will present like as a light. It's usually a certain color light, like Archangel Michael will appear as a blue light, etc. Archangel Uriel will look, to me, usually looks yellow. I think it might, I think they can appear however they want to, because they're high vibrational spiritual beings. So they can appear as energy, as light. but they can also appear as humanoid looking, like the pictures of the artworks. Now, there's a funny story many years ago, because I've been a questioner like my entire life. So this was like over 25 years ago when I was in my 20s. I remember back then I was still a little bit practicing Catholic, but really stepping out of the box at that time. And I remember that I decided cognitively, like, that angels don't have wings, because that was just something that artists made up, since you just needed some way in artwork to distinguish between regular humans and angels, so they put wings on them, and it was just like an idea that humans thought of, but angels don't actually have wings. Well, what was funny was, like, at this one point, I moved into a rental house, and I was unpacking, and like, it was later in the day, it was in the evening, and I walked into the bedroom, and lo and behold, above my bed, which I hadn't slept in at that new location, above my bed, there was an angel, like, not a light, not presenting as light, but presenting as, like, looking like an angel, looking like, you know, it had a face, it had a head, arms, and everything, and humongous outstretched wings. And I started laughing. I was like, okay, well, I had decided that they don't have wings, and then they're just like joking with me, saying like, see, we actually do have wings. This was over 25 years ago, and with all the clients that I've worked with over the years and all of the personal encounters that I've had, it's become my belief that they present however they want to. So in my experience, they either present as energy or as a humanoid figure with wings. But I think everybody's different. You know, I'm certain there's probably some of you that are watching this that have had other kinds of experiences. And also, they don't always show up where you can see them. Sometimes it's just a feeling. I'm very clairvoyant, so I've had a lot of opportunities to see them, but not everyone's clairvoyant. So some people experience angels through hearing a voice or feeling a feeling of warmth and safety, and that's also very valid, FYI. So I want to take a second now and distinguish angels from other beings. Now, this is a little bit different than some of the popular beliefs, but I very much believe this, that angels are a distinct race of beings. Like, we have the human race, right? We have the angelic race. And then there are other types of beings. Many types of beings. And so the angelic race is a particular type of being. So when people say that their grandmother passed away and she's now their angel, I mean, I don't go around correcting people, because what they're really saying is like, she's very special to me, and so I'm like, there's no reason to correct that. That's a beautiful thing. But grandma is not actually an angel. She's a human soul. So there's a distinction. There are human souls that take on a role that's very helpful and that might seem very angelic and loving, but that's not the same as them being actually an angel. So there's a distinction there between angels and other beings. I hope that makes sense. Hi, Karen. Good to see you. Long time no see. So, all right, I need to get a drink. And then I'm thinking about what we're going to talk about next. If you have any questions as we go, feel free to type them in. Because when we do questions at the end, then I'm just like sitting there waiting, because it takes a whole minute for the questions to come through. So if you have a question, let me know. You can type it at any time. So gender. This belief varies depending on what sources you look at and what interpretations you look at. I was just looking on online yesterday, and I was noticing there are some sources that were saying like Archangel so-and-so is a female angel, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I don't think so. Like, I don't believe that. I think it's my belief that angels do not actually have a sex. So they are not actually male or female in sex, but they do tend to present either as more masculine in qualities or more feminine in qualities, or some of them are a bit more androgynous or a bit more fluid. And I think they've always been that way. I don't think that that's something recent. So, for example, I think most people think of Archangel Michael as being male. Of course, that's a male sounding name, but also the characteristics are, we as human beings in our culture right now, we tend to think of Michael's qualities as being very masculine, although, by the way, I actually question, just a side tangent, I question our interpretations of what is considered masculine versus feminine qualities, because I think strength is a very feminine quality, by the way. But anyway, that's just me. But they don't really have a specific sex, right? They will present in one way or another, and that's really their personality that's coming through. Because they don't have physical bodies. So fill in the blank. They don't have genitalia. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. And so really what you're getting is like these beings of spiritual light. And Nick actually had a question on the Facebook group about plasma beings, and so I'll just touch on that right now. With them being energy or light, like to me, that's the same as plasma. So it's like this energy. It's like energy. It's like electricity. It's like fire, but no smoke, right? It's energy. So these are energetic beings that then present themselves to us in a way that's comforting to us, to where they look sort of like us, but they don't actually have like actual gender, right? So I am going to hold off. I'm going to hold off on answering questions. Thank you for sending those, because I'm going to get through all this info, and I might already answer your questions. So, all right. So here's some standard information about the types of angels. There actually is a hierarchy of angels. Now, this comes from Judaic and Christian lore, and from Judaic and Christian literature, and I'm certain it's in other religious literature as well that I'm just not as well versed in. So again, I'm not trying to leave out any particular paths or anything like that. This part, as I go over the hierarchy, as I was taking notes for today's class, I was like reevaluating some of my own beliefs, and I'm just going to be straightforward and say, yes, I know that this list of hierarchy is based on the Bible, but as I wrote out these notes, I thought I have some serious questions about, this all doesn't add up to me. So I've had a lot of personal experiences with angels, but not any of the higher ups in the hierarchy. The only higher ups in the hierarchy that I've had experiences with were actually false light beings. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But to be thorough, I'm going to go over this list. You can find this list on Wikipedia, okay? Hey, Noah, good to see you. So if you want to take notes, or you can just look this up on Google or Wikipedia, the hierarchy of angels. The supposed highest level of angels are the seraphim. These are the closest to God. Now, as I read some of these details, it might indicate to you why I was like, yeah, this sounds fishy to me. I mean, these are not the experiences that I've had. So seraphim are known to be like fiery serpents. That's what the literature says. They have 4 faces and 6 wings. What's significant about them is that they are the closest to God. They are the closest to God, the God of the Christian and Judaic system. Okay. Number 2 down the hierarchy are the cherubim. And even though they are portrayed in artwork and on Hallmark cards as little baby angels with little baby wings, they actually, the religious literature says that that's not what they actually look like. They are not little babies. They are actually, I don't know what they supposedly look like, but they are, but everything that I looked at said they don't look like babies. Okay, they're not little cute little babies. But they are keepers of the celestial records and the knowledge of God. The next layer, and by the way, as you can probably tell, or I'm just going to tell you if you couldn't figure this out, this hierarchy, I am not an expert in this hierarchy. I'm sharing this with you just for your information. And the reason why I'm not an expert in it is because I don't think all of it is true. And I'm going to tell you why when we get to number 3, which is next. A little bit of why. I'm not going to go deep into the rabbit hole. So the 3rd layer of the hierarchy are the thrones. And these are considered the heavenly governors. They rule over the heavens. And supposedly what they look like is a big glowing wheel covered with many eyes. Now, what does that make? Actually, I know this is going to make me sound maybe crazy to some of you who are not into this. But when I read about, okay, in like ancient times, people saw something that they described as a big glowing wheel in the sky with many eyes, that makes me think that these were people in a much simpler age who encountered some kind of technology, maybe from the earth, maybe not from the earth, you know. They encountered some kind of technology, like AKA some kind of aircraft, fill in the blank with whatever you want to call that, and they didn't know what it was, and so maybe made a loud sound, and they want to call it an angel because they just didn't know what it was, right? So I'm not saying that I have the answers, and if you very firmly believe in the hierarchy, then like that's totally fine with me. I'm just being very transparent and truthful with you that I question all of this, most of the hierarchy, and this is an example of why. Like, you know, there are things that are written about in our old texts that I think are really examples of like just people encountering things that they did not understand. And so they had to figure out a way to define it, to like call it something, right? So that's about thrones. Nick has a comment about seraphim. Seraphim sound like the fixed stars in astrology, the 4 faces. The scorpion was really the eagle. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Interesting. Okay, so next, the 4th layer down in the hierarchy are the dominions. This is like the middle management of angels. They take orders from the higher ups, and then they give duties to the lower levels of angels, and they keep the cosmos in order. Now, I will stop here and say, I do very much believe that there are benevolent beings, and they may very well be angels, quote angels, or dominions, or whatever you want to call them. I very much believe that there are beings that are from divine source, that are assisting with the cosmos, that are assisting with keeping everything in order, that are assisting with the planet, that are assisting with people. Like, I do believe that. So whether they are dominions or not, I don't know. The next layer down in the hierarchy are the virtues. And according to literature, they are shaped like sparks of light, and they help to maintain the natural world. That kind of sounds like fairies to me. Little sparks of light? I don't know. So there's a lot of question marks here. Like, I don't have the ultimate answers, but you better bet I'm trying to figure out the answers of the universe like all the time. I'm a major questioner. So I definitely do believe that there are benevolent beings that come from divine source that are assisting with our natural world. I definitely believe that. Whether it is the virtues that are talked about in the Bible, I don't know. I don't know the definitive answer to that. Next on the hierarchy, number 6, are the powers. These supposedly look like bright, hazy fumes. They assist with birth and death. They are like patrol agents between heaven and earth. And then number 7 in the hierarchy are the principalities. And these look like rays of light. They oversee nations, cities, towns, religion, and politics. And again, I do absolutely believe that there are benevolent beings that are overseeing not only our cosmos, not only our planet, and not only nature, but also groups of people, nations, cities, towns, organizations, religion, politics, all of that. I definitely believe that. And then, so we're going further and further down the hierarchy, and now we get to the 2 levels, the archangels and the angels, just like standard angels. The archangels and the angels are the last 2 levels, and those are the ones that I have had a lot of personal experience with. By the way, that's actually considered pretty normal, I guess, that because these higher ups in the hierarchy, they tend to not have individual interactions with people, or so they say. So the fact that, like, most people haven't had experiences with seraphim or cherubim or thrones, I'm not saying that no one has, but it's not as common as people having an encounter with an archangel or their guardian angel. Because that's just the archangels and the angels, their job is to assist people. That it's more of a one-on-one kind of thing that they do, whereas the other angels are working more globally. So that's how that fits together. So I'm going to finish these. I'm going to talk about these 2, and then I'm going to go back and look at your questions, okay? So number 8 on the list is archangels. And these are guardians of all the physical realm and human beings. And actually, I am going to go over a list later of the different guardian angels, because some of you were asking, which angels should you call on for certain things. So I will circle back to that later. Most people have heard of at least some of the archangels, like Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael, etc., and I'll go into that list later. Number 9 on the list are the lowest on the hierarchy, and these are just called angels, so they don't have a special name. Guardian angels are also in this standard angel category. So a guardian angel is an angel, a standard angel, who has been assigned to a person, and they are with that person their entire life. Now, as a clairvoyant, as a someone who's had spiritual experiences my whole life, I've had countless situations where I've seen angels with people. And when people come to me at like a psychic fair, one of the common things that happens is I will see their angels standing behind them. Sometimes I'll see their ancestors as well, other spirit guides. But I've never met anyone who didn't have guardian angels. Like, everybody has them. There have been instances where their assigned guardian angels have been pushed out, but they haven't left completely. So it's like the equivalent of like a person's angel has been pushed like outside their house. It's like standing outside their aura, and it's not really connected in to the person. That can happen if a person has been under psychic attack for a long time. Sometimes that can be a side effect, or if the person has like purposely just tried to push out all spiritual intervention. Sometimes people do that for various reasons, but most of the time our angels are pretty close, and they're actually standing close to us, and they're very nearby. And they're helping with all sorts of things. Now, with our guardian angels, a common question that I get is like, well, if I have a guardian angel, then why was such and such allowed to happen to me? And that is like the big existential crisis question that we all have. Like, why are these things allowed? And I've spent many years questioning this, and I do believe that it's a combination of like the fact that we need to ask for their assistance. Like, we need to be specific and ask for their help. They can't just intervene all the time and do everything for us. Otherwise, we would not learn anything. And there are instances where negative things are allowed to happen, unfortunately, because it is something that we have chosen on a soul level, or there is some kind of soul contract, a lesson that we've decided to learn. Sometimes that can also occur. There can be some kind of negative event because of some kind of negative hijacking, and even that, like negative spiritual interference. But even then, the angels, who are positive beings, they have to follow the rules of the cosmos, which is that they can't just intervene and fix you. A lot of people, you might be included in this, have stories though of miraculous interventions. And there are times, like when I was a teenager, I know I was saved from my car being smashed because all of a sudden something lifted up my foot off of the gas and pressed my foot onto the brake. Like, I did not do that. And there were other times, mostly when I was a teenager and being stupid. But there are so many stories. There's books and books out there about angelic interventions, people who've been saved by angels. So those interventions do happen, but we can also, all of us, I'm sure, think of times when there was not intervention and we wonder why there wasn't. And it's because of these cosmic rules. They can't just jump in and save us from everything. And we do need to ask for help. So, okay, now, so just pointing out again, I'm not a Bible scholar. What I am is an open-minded skeptic and a questioner. I question everything, including things, belief systems that we take for granted. And that doesn't mean that I disbelieve it. It means that I'm in a state of questioning and wondering, is that really true, right? So I'm going to go over some of your questions right now that you've just posted. And then I'm going to talk about some of my experiences and why I am such a questioner. Okay, how's everybody doing? Let's go back. I know there were several questions, I think. Okay. Nora, thanks for all the hearts. I think that was Jeannie. Nora says, do you feel diffusing pure essential oils and holding crystals make it easier for angels to come to us? That is, if we ask them to come in. I love that question. This is why I love doing Facebook Lives, you guys, because if I just got on by myself and just recorded a video, I didn't have anything about that in my notes, and now we get to talk about it. So it's so cool. So yeah, there are actually, I do believe that, any ways that you can ground and uplift your energy, whether that's essential oils, crystals, everybody has different methods that work best for them for grounding, anchoring, centering, and uplifting your energy. And doing any of those things that work for you will help with any positive spiritual connections. And then the inverse would be that if you try to connect spiritually and you're in like a really bad state of energy, or maybe you're like doing drugs, or you're drunk, or whatever, and you're like saying a prayer out loud, I want to connect with whatever wants to connect with me, guess what's going to happen, right? These are the clients that I end up getting sometimes, who have usually they didn't do this recently, but like 10 years ago or whatever, 15, 20 years ago, they did that, and now they have something bad attached to them, and now they finally have found me. So that's just the inverse of your question. So yes, so both things are true. You can connect with benevolent beings, including angels and other benevolent beings, by grounding, anchoring, centering, uplifting your energy. And then the inverse, if you are engaging in things that are low vibratory and that create tears and holes in your energy, and you try to connect with something, you might not be connecting with your benevolent angels. It might be something else that comes in. You just never know. So those are two things to keep in mind. I love that question, Nora. Okay. Hi, Noah. And Nick is saying Ezekiel's wheel. Yeah, so that actually made me think of the spinning wheel in the sky. Yeah, totally. Like, I wonder what that was. Spinning wheel in the sky. Maybe that was not an angel. Maybe that was something else. Technology. Jane is asking if I was drawing on the Old Testament. Yeah, so loosely drawing on the Old Testament. Again, I'm not a Bible scholar, but just kind of going over I was going over the hierarchy that is drawn from Old Testament text. And Jane, you're asking, she says, I completely value your experiences. I was just wondering if the hierarchies are in the Old Testament. So it's my understanding, again, I'm not a Bible scholar, so if I mess up on this, don't throw tomatoes at me. But it's my understanding that the hierarchy itself, the way that I listed it, is not listed in such a clear way. Like in the Bible, there's not like a place that says, and then there's this, and then this, and this. But my understanding is that the hierarchy is how many Bible scholars interpret the angels based on different mentions of angels in the Bible. So I know I was raised Catholic, and that list is pretty standard for what I was raised with, but I think it's also, it's not just a Catholic hierarchy, but it's recognized in other traditions as well. So I don't think it's literally listed that way in the Bible. I think it is an interpretation that's a pretty widespread interpretation by many. But as you could tell, I don't necessarily interpret the some of the Bible verses in that way. I think some of the experiences that the people had were maybe not what they thought. So I'm not going to go too deep into that rabbit hole because that's a little beyond our class here. Nick says, do you think we can download frequencies by just using our words or symbols along with an angel's help? Yeah, I mean, I think I understand your question. I work with clients all the time who are having experiences where their angels or their guides are actually coming in and downloading frequencies, information downloads, spiritual up-leveling and that sort of thing into their energy field. And so I actually see that a lot, and I absolutely do think it is a thing. So absolutely. Ming is asking, what's the difference between angels and guides, and do we have both? And I'm going to also be sure, I actually have a video that is just about that. It's an old one, so I'll find it under the deep pile of videos on my YouTube channel, and I'll pull it out and I'll connect it with this video. But I will say this, that the difference is that angels are specifically from the angelic race, okay? So we have different types of beings. So your angels, your guardian angels, are from their actual angels. And then we have other kinds of beings that can also be guardians and helpers. These can be your grandmother, your great-grandfather, your great-great-great-uncle. So your ancestors can take on a role of being with you for your entire life or for part of your life to help you with something. So it's not a spirit that just comes and goes briefly, but somebody who's with you for a chunk of time, if not for your whole lifetime. So that guide, that spirit guide, can be an ancestor. They can be someone who's not in your ancestry, but someone, and maybe even someone you've never met, but someone that shares a commonality with you. So let's say you are a musician and you have a spirit guide who is a human soul who was a musician when they were alive. And so they've made an agreement to work with you and help you during your lifetime. This person is not an angel. They are a human soul. And then we also have spirit guides that are, we've got animal spirit guides, we've got plant teachers, we've got earth elementals like fairies. Like there's so many different types of beings that can be working with us and helping us that are not angels. Yep. So, and you are welcome, Ming. And Jane says, very interesting. Thank you. You are welcome. Okay, so now I'm going to get a little bit into some of my own experiences, and then we're going to get into like how to tell the different. I'm going to get into some of your questions that you submitted ahead of time, actually, and then we're going to get into the archangels list. Okay, so I already told the story about how I saw an angel with wings over my bed over 25 years ago, and excuse me, I've already mentioned about the many times that I've seen angels that have looked human in appearance with wings, and the times that I've seen them present as light. But then, back in 2016, I had my first very obvious experience with fake angels. So what I mean by this are that they weren't actually angels. They were false. It was false light. It was, when I say false light, I mean a dark being or beings pretending to be a light being. So in 2016, I had an experience with someone who thought that she was working with a group of seraphim angels. I think she still believes that she is working with a group of seraphim angels. And when I started working with her, I came under attack really, really bad. And it took me a while to figure out what was happening. Long story short, because it's a very long story. Well, it's not that long, but it takes me a couple of hours to actually explain the story. So that's why I wrote this book. So if you want to know all about that story, go on Amazon, Darkness Disguised as Light by Maya Zahira. And this book tells that story about what happened to me. But that was my first experience, and what I was dealing with, I did not know. At first I was like, oh my God, like, do angels attack people? Like, this thing was attacking me. It was horrible. Like, I thought it was going to kill me. I really did. It was terrifying. And that was extremely, not only terrifying, but confusing, because one of my first thoughts was like, can angels like harm you? Are they evil? Like, this was terrifying. What I came to find out later was, and I'm very certain of it now, years later, I've had so many validations that I know without a doubt, this was definitely not seraphim angels. This was one jinn entity. This is a type of entity that is a shapeshifter. It was a jinn, and their MO is that they often, I have seen this often with clients too, where there will be one jinn that is pretending to be multiple entities. And that's what really throws people off, is they can't imagine like that it's fake, because it's a whole group. It's like a whole council of beings. And I've seen this so many times. Anyway, that really threw me for a loop, having that experience with this group of fake angels, right? And everybody was believing in them. And I don't know why it chose me to attack. I don't know. Maybe just that there's something about me that I was able to see through it, that I was able to see the truth. But anyway, yeah, it was really bad. So that really threw me off and caused me to start questioning things. So I started going down my little truth seeker rabbit hole. And I was doing some research online. This was back in 2016. And I started to find, just randomly through my research, I started to find articles that talked about how the archangels are bad. Now, this is definitely worth mentioning, but again, this is an area that I'm not going to go really deep down the rabbit hole, but I will give you some answers. There is information. There's information. There's a lot of different people in the truther movement who say that archangels are actually archons, and archons are actually non-beneficial beings that feed off of human energy. Now, that really got me down the questioning rabbit hole even more, because then I was like, what? Like, everything that I've believed in is like wrong. What? And so, and then on top of that, later in 2016, or maybe it was 2017 by that point, I had a personal experience, not like the one I was talking about where I went to a healer and there was something that was connected with her, but I had a personal experience where I was in my house and a so-called angel appeared to me and gave me a message and said that I was favored by the angels and that they were going to be helping me. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Well, long story short, and this story is going to be in my second book, which has yet to be written yet. That was a fake angel. And in hindsight, like a day or two later, I realized that that was intentional, that happened on purpose, in order to get me to ignore the red flags that I was seeing. I was getting ready to go a certain direction. I was getting ready to move somewhere onto someone's property, and that was the wrong move. Like, bad energy there, okay? I was not supposed to do it, but I was ignoring all the red flags. Guess why? Because I thought this angel had appeared to me and told me, like, that I was going to be blessed. And by the way, that whole ego thing, like, you are special, that's a very common false light approach. And I don't fall for it, actually, because I'm not ego based, but I can see how a lot of people would fall for it. But I realized very quickly that, like, oh crap, like, that was totally to guide me in the wrong direction. And in a little bit, I'm going to actually explain to you, I'll answer one of your questions that was submitted earlier, and it's that how do you tell the difference between a genuine angel and a false light angel? In this instance, though, I will tell you what did it for me was that how they've always presented is either as light, a beautiful light, or as a humanoid figure with wings. And they feel wonderful, like, but in a grounded sort of way, not a blissed out on drugs sort of way, but it's just a beautiful, loving, benevolent energy. In this instance, I didn't feel that benevolent vibe, and it was just a being. I didn't see any wings. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to see wings. That's just how it works for me. So you'll find out what your language is. And again, I'll circle back to this in the next segment when I'm talking about how to tell the difference. But I did, in hindsight, I was able to see, oh, actually there were some things that were not typical, and I should have noticed that. So when that happened, after I had the fake angel incident, then I went into a major existential crisis for 3 years, where I was like, oh my God, what do I believe in? And is everything wrong? And now, very gradually, I don't think it was like an instantaneous coming out of the existential crisis, but more of like, gradually over time, I came out of that feeling of angst and I have more peace. And I feel like I finally had to just figure out what I think is true. And I have enough answers for me that I feel okay. But I still don't have all of it, and I'm still seeking. And so I'm going to tell you what I came to. And I have to look at my notes, sorry. So, because I can't remember what I wrote. So what I wrote down here is that I'm still coming to clarity about God, like the Judeo-Christian God, God, and the afterlife, because I have some questions about that. Now, I absolutely believe in a divine creator. Absolutely. So I do believe in that. I believe in a benevolent being, but I'm still coming to clarity about exactly what I think about our reality here on Earth, about God, about the afterlife. And that's like a huge rabbit hole that's really beyond the scope of this group. But I'm just being transparent with you that I'm still kind of living the question. But I can say that, as I mentioned before, I have had hundreds and hundreds of direct experiences with angels. And you guys have heard me say this before, that I have really strong spidey sense, is what I call it. I have a really strong and astute spidey sense for what is false light and what is not, and what's genuine and what's false light. And because of that spidey sense, I trust that, like, when I'm doing readings for people, that when I see their angels standing behind them, I know, and every once in a while something false tries to come in, and I'm like, nope, that's false, because I can tell. And I've just seen so many angels, so many guardian angels, and I've had experiences with archangels, as I said, but not so much with the higher ups in the hierarchy. So I can't say for sure on them, but you know, whatever quote system the archangels and the angels might be attached to, what I had to come to the truth of a couple of years ago, I was still living in Kansas. I was sitting out on the prairie, and I was in my angst and my questioning, and I finally was like, you know, I've had so many experiences with these as benevolent beings, and I truly trust my ability to discern false light from genuine. And these experiences that I've had, all of these positive experiences, I trust that. And these beings are benevolent. I don't know exactly who created them and exactly why they are here, why they were placed here. I don't have that like ultimate answer to reality, but I absolutely now believe we do have benevolent beings that are called angels. And are there false angels? Are there beings that are dark beings that pretend to be angels in order to fool people? Absolutely. But that's not the same as actual angels. And I'll circle back to that in a minute. Okay. I see a couple comments. So that's why, you know, in my description for this class, I was like, we're going to talk about the truth about angels, because this is not going to be like, I did a video years ago where it was very fluffy, and it was like, these are all the guardian angels that you can call on. And I am going to talk briefly on archangels. These are all the archangels you can call on. I am going to talk briefly about the list of archangels, but I know some of you in the group that have been going through a questioning process like me, and that I really think you wanted to know my perspective, and so I'm not sugarcoating it, but I am withholding and going like really deep into rabbit holes. Help you understand, because it's too many different directions. Okay, Natalie says, I feel this. Been dealing with false guides, one in my field, and it doesn't want to leave. False light is a whole ordeal. Girl, you got to read my book. I'm not telling you what to do, but it'll answer a lot. It'll fill in a lot of gaps for you. And it's actually, a lot of people who've read it have told me it's a really easy read. It's fast. It's not hard to get through. A lot of people read it in a couple of days. And I know one person who read it in one sitting, because she's a really fast reader. So it's not a difficult read. A lot of things will make more sense for you. Again, it's called Darkness Disguised as Light on Amazon. Natalie says, I feel like that's what my attack has been so bad, because I've been breaking free of false light simultaneously while dealing with black magic, gang stalking, attacks, and entities. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm so glad you found our group, because that's a lot to deal with. And, you know, for people who are going through an awakening and a spiritual evolution process, when you're going through that, that's a prime time when false stuff tries to come in and pretend to be some false entity tries to pretend to be, you know, some ascended being or some angel. And then that totally gets you sucked into that web instead of where you're supposed to be. So that's why it's really important to be a questioner, be an open-minded skeptic. That's what I call it. Be an open-minded skeptic. Question everything. And the deal is, if you are working with an angel and you ask them to prove that they are who they say they are, and they get angry, then that's not a benevolent being. So kick them out. That's the rule. Noah says, thank you. I love going beyond the fluff, even though fluff can be lovely. Yeah, we got to get a bit more to the truth. Oh, you know, okay, let me look at my notes here. Da-da-da-da-da. I forgot to mention earlier. So when I mentioned how I was going through my existential crisis and I found some writings online, and if you want to go down that rabbit hole, just be prepared because it might cause you to have a major existential crisis. Don't do it unless you're ready. If you go on Google or go onto YouTube and type in like archangels or archons, archangels are archons, archons, you'll find a lot of information. But and I'm going to talk on that right now. One of the things that I question is every time I hear someone talking about that and making that statement, I'm like, yeah, how do you know that that's true? So like I'm questioning that. So the truthers, people who are saying archangels are not good, they're blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I'm an open-minded skeptic. I'm open to your idea, but like, how the heck do you know that? Where did you get that from? Just because the word archons is spelled similarly to the beginning of the word archangel, because they both start with ARCH, that doesn't mean that they are the same thing. Archons being these non-beneficial beings that source energy from humans. I've seen and I've listened to videos on YouTube where they're talking about how like Santa is the same as Satan, and I'm like, oh my God. And I hear videos all the time because I listen to a lot of weird stuff that's like not stuff that I necessarily believe in, but just to hear what's out there. And there's this common phenomenon that I hear a lot, and it's in the false truther movement. And it's where they will take two words that sound similar and then make a conjecture that those two things are related to each other, like Santa and Satan. Like, what the hell? It's like you guys are kind of reaching too far. Okay. And so I understand. I don't know. My perspective that I have right now is I think that a lot of the people who believe that archons are the same as archangels, and or that archangels are all false light, they're all part of the demiurge, they're all part of the negative construct. I understand that there are people who believe that. My perspective, every time I hear those people talking like that, I'm listening very carefully and I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure that they are saying that because they've had some kind of a false light experience that was pretending to be an angel. And so therefore, and those experiences are very upsetting and unsettling. They are. And so because of that experience, they've decided that all of it is false. The difference in my perspective is that I can see, feel, and discern the difference between genuine and false light, any kind of beings, including genuine angels and false light angels. Like, they're not actually angels, they're pretending to be. I can very clearly tell the difference. So I can be like, that over there, that's false. It's pretending to be an angel. It's not actually an angel. This thing over here, this is genuine. And so I can see these are these benevolent beings. But if you didn't have the ability to discern that, I can totally understand why having a false light experience would be very fear-inducing and would cause a person to really polarize in their belief that, oh my gosh, it's all false light, it's all non-beneficial, and they're all just trying to suck our energy, right? I get it, and I understand, I think, where that thought process is coming from. And I'm somewhere in the middle. So I don't know if anyone noticed this when you joined my group, that the big banner at the top, at least at this point in time, on the date that we're doing this Facebook Live, and this banner has been up for at least a year or 2 years. I might change it, who knows. But I, on purpose, have a big banner at the top of the group that has a big picture of an angel. Because when people are looking for assistance with false light, with psychic attack, with all sorts of other things, and they're seeking truth, there is a subset of those people who have firmly decided that all angels are bad and they're from the demiurge, from the bad construct, etc. And if they were to come into our group and then be surprised that, oh my gosh, this lady like still works with angels, and they would like be really upset and then like freak out and then stomp out, which I would totally understand, because false light experiences are very scary, and I understand why people have those kinds of responses. I've had people respond like that on my YouTube channel and be like, how can you say you're an expert in false light because you still work with angels? Well, this whole thing is my answer to that. Because that is why. I don't just have my head in la la land. I actually have spent years figuring this out, and this is my answer for now. If I have a different answer in the future, I will definitely be sure to share it with you guys. But again, going back to that, there are people who assume that all angels are false light, when that's actually not true. They're not able to discern that there are false light beings pretending to be angels, and then there are actual angels. Yep. Okay, so let's see. Nora, thank you for your comment. Hi, Lourdes, good to see you. Okay, let's get into some more of your questions. How do you tell the difference between what's false light and what's genuine? And by the way, I may have sparked some other questions as I've meandered through this, so feel free to ask any other questions, especially since we've been diving into the false light stuff. And if you were expecting fluffy angel stuff, I'm so sorry, but we are going to get back to the archangels in a little bit. So how do you tell the difference? This is really important, you guys. Like, I really think, if you're wanting to work with angels, you absolutely need to know what's genuine and what's false. Because, like, if you really want to work with angels, like, don't you want to work with the real ones and not some like weird entity that's trying to misguide you? Now, how to tell the difference? This is actually not a simple answer, because everybody's intuitive system works differently. This is how I tell the difference, and I trust that over time, with discernment and being careful in your spiritual processes and questioning things and noticing and being observant, you'll find your own intuitive language, your own signals that will tell you that something's off. So for me, when it's a false light entity of any kind, like angel, pretending to be an angel or anything, ascended master, whatever, I will usually hear a high-pitched frequency. Before I had my major like shake-up experience in 2016, where I had that false light angelic experience, I used to believe that when I heard a high-pitched frequency, I used to believe that meant that an angel was near. And I used to teach that because I didn't know. And then I came to find out that actually a lot of times that is a sign of a false light entity. So if you hear a high-pitched frequency, then that can be a sign of a false light entity. I say that it can be because I'm just thinking of all the clients and students that I've worked with, like 80% of the time, I'm just guesstimating here, 80% of the time when a client has had that happen to them where they've heard a high-pitched frequency and had an entity connect with them, and they've had me check on it psychically with my spidey sense, 80% of the time it has been that it actually was a false light entity. And a small percentage of the time it was actually benevolent, and it just happened to have a high-pitched frequency because it was a very different vibration. So it's not an all or nothing thing, and that's why you have to really develop your own skills. Also, for me as a clairvoyant, false light usually comes through as too bright. Like when I will look at it, it hurts my eyes. And when I'm dealing with a genuine spiritual being, whether it's an angel or something else, it usually comes through in a much softer and more subtle way. Whereas like everything is bolder and brighter and louder with false light. Like I've also heard them. I've heard false light beings. They've communicated directly with me, and it's like they're blasting that. Like I hear the message literally blasted either into my ear or blasting into my third eye, and it's super loud. Whereas when I've had connections with genuine angels or genuine beings, it's very soft. Like I have to really pay attention to notice, like, oh, I just heard this word, or I'm seeing this image, right? So the real thing tends to be a lot more subtle. False light tends to be, it's like the false light overcompensates for the fact that it's not real, and it makes itself really, really bright and shiny and very enticing, which is why a lot of people are unknowingly attracted to false light stuff, because they just don't know, because they're desiring true light, and because false light is so shiny, so to speak, they're very drawn in. Another question was, do you have to believe in a religion in order to work with angels or in order to have angels? No, you can work with angels. This is my opinion. You can work with angels no matter who you are, whether you are involved in a religion or not. And in my experience as a clairvoyant and as a spiritual healer, I have every single person that I've worked with, and I don't know, thousands of people that I've connected with over the years, every single person has had at least 2, sometimes 3, sometimes multiple guardian angels. So we all have at least a couple of them. And another question was, are they all beneficial? Are all angels beneficial? And the answer will be no. All angels are not beneficial. So let me just distinguish. First, we want to just say, obviously, false light beings are not beneficial, and they're not actually angels. But then, according to Judeo-Christian lore, we have the fallen angels like Lucifer. So that's an example of an angel who is not beneficial. In my direct experience, all of the genuine angels and archangels that I've connected with have all been good and beneficial. Okay. And let's see here. And I'm going to look, I saw we had a bunch of comments come through, and then we're going to do the list of archangels and my favorite ways to connect with angels, and then we'll be done. This is a nice long class tonight. An important one, though. Okay, let's see. Natalie says, wow, that makes sense, because I would always have the sound in my left ear, which means a warning. So that, to you, that's a warning for you. Yeah, I'm more clairaudient in my right ear. It sounds like you have an experience with your left ear. Nora says, comment. I appreciate your being open to changes in your approaches to this topic. I know mine is always changing and at times goes back and forth. I have good spidey sense too. Oops. Oh, shoot. There we go. Let me get back where I was. I have good spidey sense too. Unfortunately, there's so many tricksters. And that is true. There's so much tricky stuff out there. We have to always stay alert. And Nora, I love that you're such a questioner too. And Noah is asking, like a ringing in your ear sound? Yeah. So I'm glad you asked. So a high-pitched frequency is like when I fly on an airplane, and I don't know if this happens to you guys, but when I fly on an airplane, like when we're changing air pressure, I'll hear a frequency because of the change in air pressure. And I'm extremely sensitive to air pressure changes. Like I even have trouble driving up the mountain because my ears are so sensitive. And so I will hear, so if there's a change in the pressure and the vibration in the room, then I will hear it, usually in my right ear. And it's like a changing in air pressure kind of sound. Or you might have a similar effect, like if there's a storm rolling in and the air pressure changes. Have you ever had like a ringing in your ear or high-pitched frequency because the air pressure is changing? Okay. That might not, so there might be some of you who've never had that experience before, so you'll just have to imagine it. Ming says, so true. I used to hear the high-pitched frequencies. The false light beings told me it was normal. Aha. Yeah, now I know better. Yeah, I'm just laughing because of course they would tell you that. Nora says, excuse me. Nora says, I hear the frequency and also see a shade of purple out of my left eye. So it sounds like you're saying that's your little indicator of false light. Yep. Nick says, I have different high-pitched ringing in my ears all the time. Yeah, and you guys, by the way, the high-pitch, the ringing, that can also be a medical condition. So we don't always want to assume like that it's a spiritual thing. Just throwing that in there. Nick says, I have different high-pitched ringing in my ears all the time. Sometimes, like yesterday, my hearing goes totally quiet and I get a very loud, lower tone. You know, Nick, without going into personal details, you've done a lot of research and you've probably read that can be a symptom of certain health issues that you've talked about. So we can always talk privately. It's weird stuff how that works. Natalie says, that's so interesting. I'm so glad I caught this live. Yeah, I love doing these lives. I'm glad you're here. And you're a new member, I think. I think I added you yesterday or today. Yesterday. Natalie is asking, are blue orbs and white orbs a sign of good angels or protection? Okay, we haven't talked about orbs. All right, so the short answer would be it depends. So if you see orbs, I would not just assume that they're always beneficial because false light beings can present as orbs also. So you'll still need to take them through a vetting process of checking and asking them who they are. And you can even make a proclamation and saying, if you are not, if you're not beneficial, if you're not a genuine such and such angel, whatever, then you need to leave now. So making a proclamation can be helpful. It doesn't always work though, because some of the false light entities are like sociopaths that don't respect boundaries, but you can at least start with setting a boundary and making a proclamation, and that is helpful, but it's not gonna it's not gonna fix everything 100% of the time. So just keep that in mind. Hi Sheena, good to see you. Noah says, I hear that in my left ear sometimes. It gets so loud that I can't hear for a few minutes. Yeah, we should talk about that sometime. Because I want to do a reading on you. But just to put your mind at ease, I'm feeling like it's beneficial. I feel like you have a family member that's trying to connect with you. So this feels good to me. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's a good example that some of these possible red flags can also be green flags too. So that's why we have to really develop our senses, because it can be really tricky. Natalie says, the false light being has been showing as neon green for me. Wow, this is so fascinating to hear all the different ways that they come through for you guys. I think everyone has a different language for it, right? Let's see. Natalie says, I just noticed them around me lately. I've also seen black and red orbs around my home. Yeah, the black, the darker colors, that can be an indicator of some non-beneficial beings. Again, it can be. So, I'm not going to read that deeply. I'm not going to psychically tune into that, but it could be, it's usually an indicator of something non-beneficial, but you would want to tune in. I think you already know the answer, actually. That's what I'm going to say. You already know. Yeah, and you've been calling on protection. That's good. Yeah, okay. Noah says, so non-medical, my mom always said that sound was others talk. Okay. So your mom used to always say that high-pitched sound was others talking bad about me, LOL. Yeah, that's a good point. Is I do think that intuitively, psychically, we can have different ways of sensing when someone is talking bad about us. I'm an empath, and so usually I will I'll feel like my emotions kind of go down. I'll just feel kind of I'll think of that person and I'll feel my energy go down. That's my indicator. I feel like, though, Noah, that what she told you is not, I don't want to say that she wasn't telling you the truth, but it feels like that was maybe true for her, but I don't know that it's always true for you. Nick says, the low tone when I went deaf yesterday for a minute was in meditation. I couldn't see anything when I opened my eyes. So blurry, I couldn't see. That's never happened before, ever. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still getting medical connection with that. And there's, the truth is, there's never an exact distinction between our physical bodies, what's happening with our health, with our medical stuff, and emotions, and spiritual and energies. It's all connected, right? So it's like some of all of the above. You're welcome. Okay, so let's go through the list of archangels, and we're gonna need to scoot off of here pretty soon. So I'm gonna go through this quick. Grab your pen and paper. Some of you wanted to know, who can you call on for certain things? And so these are the standard archangels. There are others that are talked about in some traditions and in New Age, but I'm just going to give you the basic ones. So we have Archangel Michael for protection and strength. And a lot of people call on Archangel Michael for spiritual warfare issues. And then next on the list, we have Archangel Raphael, and he is the healing angel. I often work with both of them together, Michael and Raphael. So we have protection, strength, and courage, and then we have Raphael for healing. And then we have Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel, who is the messenger angel, and can help you if you're trying to convey a message, if you are a teacher, or you're trying to convey any kind of message. You're going to speak on a podium. You're going to do a speech. You're going to have an important conversation with someone. Or you're a teacher. All of the above. Archangel Jophiel. This is the angel of beauty. So this is the angel you can call on to help you to exhibit more beauty into the world, or to help you to see and experience more beauty in the world. Archangel Ariel. Archangel Ariel is the one who helps with the angels, with the animals and the environment and the earth. So you can call on her. I think of Archangel Ariel as a her. And you can call on her to help with your pets, to help with your garden, whatever. Next one on the list is Archangel Azrael. And this is the angel of death, who helps human souls to move from their body at death over to the afterlife, whatever you believe that might be. And also helps people who are grieving death, the death of a loved one. And then lastly, we have Archangel Shamuel, spelled with a CH, Shamuel. And this is the angel of both peace and protection. So peace on earth, peace within yourself, peace in your relationships. And we have some good comments coming through. Let me read these and then we'll finish up. Nora says, I feel the ear frequencies are all that we are talking about. I hear when people are excited to talk to me or are thinking about me, and if they are gossiping about me, my ears burn if someone is angry at me. Yeah, so that's one of your signals. I love that you're in tune with that. Lourdes says, I was told the same thing. Ears ringing equals someone talking bad about you. I wonder if there's a cultural connection in your ancestry or cultures between both of you, Noah and Lourdes. Or if it's a regional thing, I don't know. That if that was a common belief in a certain region. I know I wasn't told that, but I'm sure some of you were. I'm glad you jumped in and said that, because it wasn't just Noah. Nora says, and I hear when devices have been put in me, and I hear into the lower fourth dimension where the entities are. Like Maya said, I can hear the negative entities. They are loud, and I hear them always when I'm waking up in the morning. Yeah, that's like a gift and a challenge, right? To hear that. Noah says, my middle name is Gabriel, named after the angel. That's beautiful. Cool. Yes. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. All right. So just to wrap this up, my favorite ways to connect with angels are through using oracle cards. So you can go onto Amazon or go to your local metaphysical shop, and there are a lot of different angel oracle cards out there, and you can pick out a deck that you feel drawn to. If you want to work with like actual angels rather than ones that were made up by the oracle card author, I would recommend finding a deck that says something like that it's Archangel oracle cards or something like that, because then you know that it's based on the archangels rather than because I've actually had angel decks before where I was like, where'd they make these up? There's like all these names on here that are just they pulled out of nowhere. So I would recommend looking for like Archangel oracle cards, and keeping in mind you're looking for oracle cards that have actual angels and not made up ones. And then every day you could shuffle your cards, pick a card and read the message. That's a really nice beginner level way to start to connect with your angels. And my phone was ringing and a scam phone call was trying to come through. The second way that I like to recommend for beginners to connect with their angels is to choose one angel, either one of your guardian angels. Even if you don't know who they are, you can just be like, okay, I want to choose one of my guardian angels or an archangel. So you're going to choose, like, am I going to work with this or one of the archangels? Maybe I want to work more closely with Archangel Michael or Gabriel or whatever. And so you're going to mentally make that focus, like, okay, I want to work with so-and-so. And you're going to make that clarity in your mind and in your heart. And then you're going to notice over the course of the next month any dreams that you have, any signs that come through, like feathers, songs on the radio, a billboard that has this message or whatever. Just start to notice the signs and the feelings and any dreams that come through. And that's a really good way to begin to connect with your angels. And you guys are having an awesome conversation amongst yourselves. I will just let you have that. I won't read it. Nora is asking, do you feel Archangel Hanael is beneficial? And I'm going to say, I don't know the answer to that as of right now, but I will write it down. And I will ponder that. And we could talk later. You and I will talk later sometime. I don't want to tell you one way or the other because I haven't gone deeply into that. And Nick is saying, oh, I guess I shouldn't have called on all of them all at once. Well, I don't know that that was bad to call. Like, actually, when I'm really needing a lot of help, I will call, I'll be like listing off names of ones that I'm comfortable working with. And so it's totally okay to work with more than one. I think it's totally fine. Yeah. So you're welcome, Nora. All right. And I wrote down at the bottom of my notes, you know, kind of as we're wrapping things up and kind of bringing things full circle, because we've talked about the fluffy stuff, we've talked about the inspiring, the happy stuff, and we've talked about the rabbit hole, the questioning, and false light. So the general rule is, at this point, like taking what you've gotten from this video, the general rule will be, if you feel guided to work with them, angels, then do. If you don't feel guided to work with them, then don't. Because there are people out there that are my clients and students who will tell me, like, they don't work with any beings, like any external beings, because that's where they're at right now. And if that's where you're at, honor that. Okay? And as far as individual angels, whichever ones you feel that you have vetted and you feel comfortable with, then, and you feel good about working with them, then work with them. Any that you're not sure of, I would just kind of like put them on a holding pattern for a while and just keep feeling into it until you get more solid information for yourself. And then you can call on them later when you feel more comfortable. That's really a good approach, I think. And Ming says, can false light beings influence your angel card deck, like giving you the readings they want you to have? Oh my God, that's a really good question. So I'll say this, if somebody is in the middle of dealing with spiritual warfare, psychic attack, and you're trying to use your spiritual tools, whether it's your oracle cards, your pendulum, whatever, then it is a common problem that that entity that's messing with you will mess with your tools. And so your readings will be off. Okay? So I don't know if you're under attack right now, but just I'm saying that to everybody. If you're dealing with active psychic attack, just know that the readings that you try to do for yourself might be off. So you have to get clear first before you can do your readings for yourself using your oracle cards. And you might have to have someone else do your oracle readings for you until you can get clear. What you're asking though, Ming, is generally can false light beings just come in and mess up your angel card deck? It's usually not going to be like a random thing. If your space is already clear, you've done a good job of clearing your space, clearing yourself, then some random false light entity is probably not going to just all of a sudden show up and mess up your reading. So if you're grounded and centered and connected and you've cleared everything and you're not actively under attack, then 99% sure that you're going to be fine using your cards. Okay, so it's kind of like it depends. It depends on the circumstance. So with that being said, like always make sure that you are clear and grounded and centered before you're using any of your spiritual tools, because absolutely can negative stuff or false light stuff interfere? Absolutely, yeah. Nora says, it's so nice to see you and learn from you. Wonderful seeing you too, Nora, and everybody else. And just a quick announcement for everybody that if you would like more information and you'd like to work with me more deeply, you can go to my website, which is psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, to get more information, and you can sign up for the newsletter and get some really, really good free gifts as well. I look forward to seeing you all next month. And just a reminder, we do a Facebook Live in here every single month, and it's the first Monday, every first Monday evening. And it's, if you want to be a part of it, those of you who are watching on YouTube, you do have to be in the Facebook group in order to be a part of the lives. So hop on over to our Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary. Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group is where we will be every month. And you're welcome, everybody. See you guys online. And in our Facebook group, you guys, every day we have a different conversation going on, a different daily post. So feel free to get involved in those daily conversations, and I will see you in the Facebook group. Lots of love.